The sun was setting over the sleepy town of Willow Creek, casting long, amber shadows across the porch of a small, weathered cottage. On that porch sat Max. To a stranger, he looked like any other aging German shepherd, gray fur dusting his muzzle, ears that didn't perk up as quickly as they once did, and eyes that spent most of the day closed. But Max wasn't just any dog. He was a retired K-9 officer, a legend in the local police force. His mind was a library of old sirens, dark alleys, and the adrenaline of the chase. Now, his only job was to guard the quiet street, a task that felt far too small for a heart that had seen so much heroism. He felt the weight of his years, a silent loneliness that only an old warrior understands, when the world no longer calls for his help. In the house next door lived Leo. Leo was 7 years old, but he carried a silence that was far deeper than his age. An orphan who had seen too much sorrow, Leo had stopped speaking years ago. The world was too loud for him, so he created his own world in the dirt with his sketches. One afternoon, Leo wandered near Max's porch. Most people ignored the old dog, but Leo saw the scars on Max's paws. He sat down beside him, not saying a word. Max opened one eye, looked at the small boy, and rested his heavy head on Leo's knee. In that moment, a pact was formed. They were two broken souls finding a common language in silence. For weeks, they were inseparable. Max found a new mission, protecting Leo, and Leo found his first real friend. But the peace of Willow Creek was about to be shattered. The radio began to hiss with warnings of a massive hurricane, a storm the likes of which the town hadn't seen in decades. The sky turned a terrifying shade of bruised purple and charcoal gray. As the wind began to pick up, a small, stray kitten, shivering and terrified, darted across Leo's path near the edge of the woods. Leo, with a heart too kind for his own safety, couldn't let the small creature suffer. He followed it. He didn't hear the sirens. He didn't see the trees bending under the force of the wind. By the time the first heavy drops of rain hit the ground, Leo was deep within the forest, lost in a maze of shadows and howling wind. Back at the porch, Max felt the change in the atmosphere. His fur stood on end. The scent of rain was mixed with the scent of fear. Leo's fear. When Mrs. Sarah, the orphanage caretaker, ran out calling Leo's name, her voice was swallowed by the thunder. Max didn't wait. With a strength that defied his aging joints, he snapped his old leather leash and charged into the darkness. The woods were a battlefield. Branches fell like spears, and the mud tried to pull him down. But Max's K-9 training took over. He wasn't a retired dog anymore. He was a hunter on a rescue mission. Deep in the ravine, the local creek had turned into a roaring monster. Leo was trapped on a jagged rock, the freezing water rising inches from his feet. He was cold, terrified, and for the first time he tried to scream, but no sound came out. Suddenly, through the curtain of rain, he saw two glowing eyes. Max. The old dog reached the edge of the cliff and saw the impossible gap. Any other dog would have barked for help, but Max knew there was no time. He leaped. The impact with the freezing water was like hitting a wall, but he fought the current with everything he had. He reached Leo, grabbed the boy's navy blue hoodie in his teeth, and using the last of his fading strength, dragged them both to the muddy bank. By the time the search party's flashlights cut through the fog, the storm had begun to tire. They found them huddled under a fallen oak tree. Max was exhausted, his breathing heavy, but he refused to move. He was wrapped around Leo, keeping the boy's small body warm with his own fur. When Mrs. Sarah reached them, Leo did something no one expected. He reached out, hugged Max's wet neck and whispered, "Good boy, Max." The silence was finally broken. Max had saved Leo, and in doing so, he had saved himself from a life of loneliness. As the sun rose the next morning, Willow Creek was different. Max was no longer just the old dog on the porch. He was the guardian who had come home.